Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're about to head into the second half of this visual novel. And yeah, really enjoyed the first half. Looking forward to the second half of this duology. Let us begin. Oh, wait, hang on. I think we gotta start new game from... Yeah, that save is on 1-5. There we go.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home. So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
Swan hat lady. Oh.
So please, I ask for your guidance.
She did that.
Kazuma-sama.
What do you know? Also, it appears that they have run out of budget for the anime cutscenes. I did hear about that, right? The second half of the duology, the cutscenes are all in-engine because they didn't have the budget for anime. Which is fine, that's not a problem, but a little bit of tidbit, I guess. The return of Swan Lady, except she's the victim this time. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh good, you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You cut a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. And those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Ah, I'll call back. Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hoped to hear from his daughter, I must say. Eugene Mikotova, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me? Oh, it's a lady. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication. This whole thing. Remember. Born the same year as I and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my. It's just that... You look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it... Well, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness. I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes. I never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relief, as you say, Father. Father? Ah! Is that you, Susato? I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner, Rei. It's just that... No! What are you doing? What's going on? Nani? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look for all the world just like a student of Imperial University... Imperial Human University. A male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... It was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take into defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women, but not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female, alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you go to such lengths for me. Is it just Larry Butt's case again? Yep, once again! Not recusing yourself because of a personal relationship. But, you know, that's the least egregious thing about these games, honestly. Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Rei. It's so strange though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason! I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing! Rei... Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just... You really do look so dashing. Happy Pride Month, everybody. we are playing this in June. Happy Pride Month. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Rei, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can't see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. She's probably hiding something then. Eh? Right. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato. Defendant, counsel. Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Rei. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father, going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom and have no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Rei doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. We would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. Because of the political situation, I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my students. Thank you, Father. So a non-lawyer and a non-judiciary assistant walk into the courtroom. That is the unauthorized practice of law. And you should be thrown in jail for that. But this is the Ace Attorney universe, so this is the least egregious thing. Along with not recusing yourself because of personal relationships. Har har har. Don't worry, there is much more silly legal stuff going on. I'm Susato Mikotoba, Judicial Assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. How many times have I wished that he were here, I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Here we are back in Japan. This court is now in session to hear the trial of Rei Membani. Prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. Defense Counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready? Ah, yes, Counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Is that correct? Sorry? Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, Counsel. Yes, that's right. That's me. I mean... Hi! I am Ryutaro, he who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. Ah. It seems Ryutaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. I like how she's doing the same nervous eye darting around thing. And those wild wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Naruhodo. A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be? You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin. That's right. Ryutaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any Tokyo's preeminent lawyers. Any of them! What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy. How dare you! Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I wouldn't have you making fun of her. Huh? Please be careful, Ray. What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit. The case to be heard this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire. Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet, for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yoko by the dock. Dear me. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you are standing now. The same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this would be easy. So, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions? She took the cloak off. Alright, it's time to prove myself. She's doing the same animations too. Yes, Your Excellency, but please do make them simple. Very well. To start with, you will state the name of the victim. Phew, that is simple. I could have forget that if I tried. Ah. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are want to blank. It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like this bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear, this is a dismal failure. Don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem. Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record. That's right, just use R to open the court record. Then you need to flip to the people section of R. And don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely. Alright. Check the court record with R. That's where the information I need will be. I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case? Takesuchi Aochi. I wanna say it. Chat, can I call him the victim? Because he is a victim for sure. I'm doing it. The victim in this case is, yes, Prosecutor Takesuchi Aochi. What? Why the sudden triumphant cry of yes? Are you threatening to kill me? He seems angry. And you're surprised. Did you consult the court record? You must look through it carefully. He is a victim of being a punching bag for every lawyer ever, yes. Oh yes, I did, of course. I looked at everyone on file. And I chose the person whose features appeared to be the most deathly. I must say, this most unusual methodology of yours leaves me almost speechless. It occurs to me with renewed certainty that reading the information carefully is vitally important. I strongly recommend it. Oh dear. I simply can't ignore that imploring look. Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer. That was worth it, though. That was very worth it. Very well. I will excuse this incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. It is the Brett 9mm pistol. Yes.
Yes!
Exactly. Hi. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our Empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student of the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own Empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett. Behind the woman's student persona was the face of Queen Victoria!
Yes!
9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yumi University was killed, and the culprit was Giselle Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain, and it was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Picatoba. Oh no, this was subtle talking. Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. The student of the Imperial Yumi University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryonosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, the student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our Empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of a transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our Empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. No. Actually, I haven't even taken a look at this yet. 11 August around 2 p.m. Single deep stab wound from behind, piercing the lung, turning people having a rage. Pupil constriction was observed in the victim in both eyes. Poison? And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before. That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle. Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Aoichi. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut directed for bathers to dress or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Membani. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider that she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady. Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say. That's certainly true. The prosecution summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel on what he said about a powerful motive. That's a big claim to make. You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. It's the Yoko boy using long words he doesn't fully understand. I beg your pardon. No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Mimbani-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe? Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment. I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility. Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson. Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor, who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago. The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously it was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh, no, Ray, be careful of what you're saying. Ah. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. I must find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up with the prosecution what he said about... Oh, okay, I guess we gotta go through all of them. Being alone together? Membani-san. Yes, what is it? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd meet my alias Ryutaro Susato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot of the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present, a detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life. No. Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again. Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. The prosecution's counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let him goad you. Oh dear, this is really terrifying. The father's right, we need more information. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel what he said about the bathing spot. If I may, Prosecutor Aoichi. What do you want, you fresh-faced young Yoko student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. Ha! My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skins. No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? For old time's sake, I believe. Sorry. Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply. But on what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal. But don't look at me, Professor! It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, a murder took place. I said don't look at me! It was that young student girl who did it, not I! No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murderer of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Yeah, so I guess she was under house arrest, like, technically. Poor Ray. So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident. Yes, thank you, Counsel. Tragic image. As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden. The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. Alright, let's take a quick look. A little grainy. Okay, for immediate thing that you notice is the wine, right? And the fact that her pupils were dilated, there was almost certainly something in that wine, I would imagine. And then there's a bunch of footprints, like, on the outside here. And I guess the feathers are from the swan hat. Probably. Yeah. I'm thinking the wine probably has something to do with it. Well, you know, we'll get more information as we keep going. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant. Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime, and damning evidence. Witnesses? But who? One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt. Hosonaga-san, come to our rescue. Very well then, Counsel. Bring forth your witness. Hi, Takatsuchi Aochi. Have been waiting for this moment. Sorry? Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago here in this very courthouse. When that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ah! Inosuke Naruhodo! But yes? This insult to the Aochi family name will never be forgotten. You've become conceited of age, Council. But the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that. Judgment cut! Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died. Starting your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Council? Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Aoichi growth. You see the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown. I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is the hope exactly? Oh my god, you did not have to do him that dirty. I said silence! Today, I face another Yoko student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. And my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witness to the stand. Looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and defense each has much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to race life. Hosonaga-san, wow. What are you wearing? Waga hai wa neko de... Sorry, I had to bring that joke back. Well, look who made it back to Japan. But he doesn't look any happier. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. Ignore the turtle on my head. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact, yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical Wagahai wa Neko de Aru, a sensational success by Soseki Natsume. Wow, he did it. He published it. Chad, he did it. He published Wagahai wa Neko de... I guess I'm legally allowed to keep making that joke now then. Oh my goodness. Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. Wait, I've forgotten what voice I gave him. He had a very frightened voice, but he's no longer frightened, so I needn't. It's only natural that you feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please, relax. Call me Soseki even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san wouldn't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. Has he? He still has the eye bags. Chad, did they change his model? If they did, I'm not noticing it. He still looks like he hasn't slept in days. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? You have something on your head. Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, isn't it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yumi University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yumi University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the medical science department. The professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikotoba. Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. He wanted some story or other for two former students who studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. You practically threw that paper at me. Well, he does seem to be in a better mood at least. So Seki Natsumi article. Alright, let's take a look. Yep, he's definitely in better spirits. With the kanji and everything. Hey, a cat maiden there. It's not Wagahai. Wagahai is in Britain still, right? But it is a cat. Why is the glass? Why is there a shattered glass effect? Huh? Was it taken with a broken camera? I wish I understood moon runes. I'm pretty sure this is actually this is actually proper Japanese. Well, I can read a little bit of this. 2nd of this month. Yeah, the start of this paragraph says 2nd of this month. And then that's all I got. Well, hang on. No, I don't see anything else in the details. Oh well. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words. As I explained before, Miss Bread was never taken into custody. She will be proper Japanese given the Capcom is Japanese. Yeah, but, you know, they also could have just made it scribbles, you know? It's like some of the other newspapers are just scribbles. Or at least they were in the 3DS version. The Russian newspaper is actually proper Russian this time, instead of just scribbles. Because of the upres. I wonder if that newspaper was scribbles in the 3DS version, but then became actual Japanese in this one. It's possible. She continued to work in my laboratory, under strict surveillance, of course. At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her. The detective I am at liberty to divulge was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga. Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems. It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Still suffering from tuberculosis, I see. Oh my, Inspector, you... Well, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that, as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had, I'd never had seen that awful sight. Relentlessly, racked by remorse and regret. Oh no. Soseki-san, you did it, didn't you? There's only a few people who went there. The assistant, the detective, and you. You did it, didn't you, Soseki-san? Your Honor, I wish to accuse... Very well. I was now asked you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. The turtle did it, clearly. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. Maybe she did herself in. Detective Tuberculosis is on the case. Hosonaga-san, you did it, didn't you? You were under orders by the government to kill her before she got extradited. Right? Actually, maybe, Yeah, let me think about this. So, unless we introduce, like, a random extra witness... my theory is that she committed suicide. Like, she got an order from up high that, like, you are not going to come back to Britain. Your orders are die. And then she decided to eat a cyanide pill or something, Right? Maybe. That seems like a plausible idea. Given that we're dealing in weird diplomacy things and weird political stuff, I think she might have been compelled to kill herself. Your order are to die. Yeah. Maybe she drank... That does bring... that still brings up the question of why she has a stab wound. But my current working theory, at least, without any other further information, is that she put a cyanide pill in her wine and she drank it. And maybe someone else and maybe Ray came in, saw that she was dead, panicked, but then she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stab the corpse. And it makes me feel better. And then she didn't think about, wait a minute, that makes me look like the murderer. Har har har. And it's probably not that simple, it's Ace Attorney, but... Anyways. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes! That young girl was a striking Englishwoman, dagger in hand, and she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Ah. She might have been defiling the corpse then. Yeah. That might not have been a joke I put on my ass then. She might have actually been defiling the corpse. Indeed. It does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. The very moment of this heinous crime. What? Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah yes, that was it. Damning evidence. What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is that it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found that the scene was examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments of her final ounce of strength, she wrote her killer's name. Of course she did. The victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. Oh, okay, never mind. Ace Attorney loves they wrote the killer's name before he died thing, and it's almost always a subversion, Actually, Chad, has there been any case of somebody actually writing down the murderer's name? Spoilers for the other games, I guess. Let me think. 2-1 was fake. 1-2 was fake. 3-5 was fake. Oh! 5-1. 5-1 was real. The police officer wrote down the bomb squad officer's ID. So that was actually a case of like actually identifying the person who did it. Just that it was modified to point to someone else. Yeah, I guess that's one. There was one case. Exactly one incident where somebody actually did write down their murderer's name. Okay. So I guess there's precedent. Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Oh, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And you will kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Ah, the owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Membano. The initials of the defendant. Ah. No! Okay, he looks even stupider from behind. Hosonaga-san, that old-timey bathing suit doesn't flatter you very well. This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as a critical evidence. Alright then. Evidence? Oh, we can't examine it? Oh. So, have I omitted anything? Actually, yeah. No, we can't examine it. Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. Already in now despair mode? I don't understand. Prosecutor Aochi of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise. Counsel for the defense. You may begin your cross-examination now. Unless they're just not letting us examine it until they teach us in the tutorial or something. Naruhodo-san! Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please. Alright. I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Finding inconsistencies in the witness testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Okay.
Hold it!
In that jaunty disguise. Correct. Wait, no! I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those are my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer. Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of a detective's job. I submerged myself in salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. Is that a real turtle? Is that turtle alive? I thought it was a hat. Or a plush toy. But there was no need for you to blend into the background of this assignment, really, was there? If that made you late arriving on the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong. Turtle's not moving by itself. I think it's a plush. Unless it starts moving by itself, I think it's a plush. Or a figure, or, you know, whatever. It's a hat. Perhaps I shouldn't have pursued his line of questioning any further at the moment.
Hold it!
Ah, you're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Sosaki-san. In more literary terms, you might say that it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Gah! Or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors are wont to describing things so. Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England. Because he's talking in Japanese now. Anyway, I spun around in the noise and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Yes, the beach hut. There was probably Ray screaming then. The area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always very quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure, erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. Although, the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand. Ah, I imagined it was rather embarrassing for you. Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach hut at a run. Or, in more literary terms, I de-crabbed and beat it off hut-wise.
Hold it!
Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say. But how could that be? No, you misunderstand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant, Rimembani-san. Oh, it would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. If you jump to conclusions, you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes. Dear me, pinning your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish. Very foolish. It really was an outside chance. I just wish I'd realized that before I said something silly. So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut? Well, it was a sorry sight. A really grisly scene. I parted the Norrin curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped inside only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim, sprawled on the sand. Yeah, it's almost certainly a plush. It's a bobblehead. My glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes. How thoroughly appalling. He doesn't appear to be lying there. Well, Soseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder? Ah, you're like a literary man's opinion. Hey!
Hold it!
Stabbed wildly. You actually saw her do it. Oh, indeed. The terrible spectre! The terrapin inspector! The bloody torrent! The author's torment! Ah! Every sight and every sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least. As a facial literary sensation. Counsel! What an overstepped shrill, effeminate scream! No, no? What are you insinuating? I'm as manly a Japanese man as you! I wonder if I might interject here, Soseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression, or your words just now, I believe. So, do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you described? No! Yes! I know what I saw! My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream, hence my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial. It sounds as though the next installment of I Am a Cat may take a macabre turn. I think this is fool's errand. The more we press the author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become. Oh dear, how awkward.
Hold it!
She was stabbed multiple times. How can you be sure of that? Very simply, with the blood on the blade. The blood? When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air. Yes, that's right! I saw it too! Oh. And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived on the scene. Yes, that's right! I saw it too! And the victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand too. All of which means I can be sure. The victim did not die instantly. Yes, right! Saw it too! Maybe a year in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese. Oh, is he? Are the all caps in English? The logic of the argument is sound, at least. Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. That's just my personal opinion, of course. Counsel, you will refrain from mocking the witness. Yeah, oh, I get it. He's like a turtle hiding in his shell. He's so embarrassed. Alright. Well, we gotta point out the contradiction. Okay. Yes, yes, I know how this game works. Thank you very much, sir. I will now present the contradiction. Yes. Inconsistencies. Yes, yes, yes. I will present the evidence. It's just good to press everyone, though. You always get information. In general. Alright. Hosonaga-san. The autopsy report states that it was a single stab wound.
Objection!
With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. What's the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel? It means I have just activated turnabout mode. I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Oh, this is... yeah, Susato has her own objection theme. That's cool. Unless this is just a GAA2 objection theme. Not you, Soseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me? In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said, when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, Counsel. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. Oh. In other words, Inspector Hosonaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Soseki-san, me, you claim to have seen Membani-san in the throes of stabbing the victim. Yes, I did. Wildly. But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. That there was already blood on the knife you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and? It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. Ah, true! Then what exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you going to tell us? And this is our leitmotif, so this is our own unique music. Yes, Your Excellency, there's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That can't be! Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically. Don't blow my cover, sir!
Objection!
Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in their trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child of a half-baked objection attempted to steal the show. You're right. There were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair. Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all the talk of stabbing and withdrawing in multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Ah. All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustache author is prone to moments of extravagance. Ah. I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But if she was withdrawing the blade... And we are back where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young Yoko boy. If the student girl was innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And if a demon's cold-blooded composure, too? Let me look at this again real quick. Fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Alright. You know what, chat? This is a stupid joke and it's a technicality. But technically, if she pulled the blade out, doesn't she unplug the wound and actually cause the death? So she's actually, she's at least partially liable. Well, I mean, this is a criminal case, not a civil case, so we're here to determine guilt, not liability, but still, if this was a civil case, I'd say at least 50% liability, right? Medical knowledge, you leave the blade in. It's plugging the wound, don't pull it out. So if she knows that pulling the blade out will hasten the death, and she intentionally pulled the blade out, then she could have committed murder, right? In that sense, the person who put the blade in and the person who yanked the blade out are both equally responsible for the murder. But that's probably not where this game is going. That's just a stupid joke I wanted to make. Anyway. The prosecution demands an explanation. And it had better be good. Why did Ray pull out the knife? Ah, yes. Going for the juggler. What does father mean by that? Let the court hear your answer then, counsel. The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could save her life. Oh, I guess, wow. Hide the knife. Stab her again. Save her life. Ah, yes. We need to take the bullet out. Digs around in the wound, infects it, kills the person anyway. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury. Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates a killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Mbani-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Isn't that opposite though? Wouldn't it be the opposite? If you're medically trained, wouldn't you know not to pull the blade out? Okay, real quick question, chat. Is this an actual contradiction, or is it just the game going with the cliche that we need to pull the blade / bullet out? Or is this an actual contradiction? There is a reason? Oh, there's an act. Okay, so it's not. I'll find out. Okay. Okay. I will trust that Ace Attorney at least knows that. Susato is bullshitting. Okay, so we're actually gonna bring it up that pulling the blade out is actually the worst thing you can do then. Everyone's gone quiet. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect for this young Yoko. Indeed. Is it just me, or doesn't he suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the Yoko Defense Council, I mean. Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young Yoko Hofer has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense. Oh, good. Okay. We're not perpetuating the misconception. Then, very well, Inspector, I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the Defense Counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Oh, wow. Okay, I literally pressed A one more time and we start addressing it. So basically, she was trying to murder her by pulling the blade out. That's the assertion we're going with now, right? That's actually what we're saying. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes, think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Lol. Wow, well, I should have had more faith in Ace Attorney. After they actually got the type of poison right in the first game's case, I should have had faith that they actually had a little more medical knowledge then. Yeah, you know what? Good job. Good job, Capcom. Yeah. Oh, I see. Ha! This is why Yokos should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see. I'll pull the blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Father, is it true what you're telling me? Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge from medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that would be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... Could my friend actually have... Susato! Yes, and stop trying to blow my cover! Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Ah. Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue to the established facts, I will be moving to my education immediately afterwards. I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Alright, time to press everything.
Hold it!
You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you used due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out really, but the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath. Back to the witness testimony, please.
Hold it!
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is? Clearly, the defendant, Raymond Bunny-san, does not possess an ounce of sense. What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba? Not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer. I don't know young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it. Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing. Oh dear. They recoiled on me rather badly. That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Mimbani-san would certainly have been aware of it.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground, bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it? Susato-san. Leaning into stereotypes is not how you get your client off. Oh dear. You have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Oh dear. Perhaps I'm letting my male persona take hold a little too much. Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument.
Hold it!
Whatever the motive, it just isn't in Mimbani-san's nature to do something so awful. But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against. But you don't know the defendant.
Objection!
And you, Counsel, do not appear to know the law. Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings. With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused. So do I. Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Ah, yes. This Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Mimbani-san.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Mimbani-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him. Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Mimbani-san's abilities. Clearly the defendant was in a man's step, which only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Rain knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it. Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. The fundamentals? Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it? Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You didn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail, too. Ah! I realize this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help. Examine the evidence of the court record. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do? I know what to do. Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in your hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater details. Ah, but a look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the code record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue. Yes, I'll do it straight away. Oh, now I can examine it. Very specific. And now I can examine this. Did I only just get the option? I only just unlocked it, didn't I? Okay, well, let's take a look. Rocco's England returnees tell all. This is the interview with you and Soseki-san, is it, father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange. Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck. I do hope you weren't hurt. This is the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume Medical Research? Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen. It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning the story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I put Ray in charge of the project. Ray? She was managing it? What's written here is true. It means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details will leak somewhere. I don't believe it. You need to read this article very carefully. Well, well, well. Turns out you were hiding something. Eh. Even the smallest amount entering the body via the mouth via wound from poison use. Current methods cannot detect new developed chemical news with consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting from impaired breathing and people's quiet death. Spray and entirely new specific alkaloids and rumors to be commissioned by the military. What? What are we developing? Alkaloid poisoning, eh? Now I'm curious. Well, it could be any number of things. Commissioned by the military. Is it meth? Methamphetamines? Wait, is that it? Is that no? It could be morphine. Yeah, I'm gonna guess. No, not morphine. I'm just browsing. I'm wondering. I'm just curious. I'm trying to guess. Trying to guess what which poison it was, because it's a military poison, right? Impaired breathing, acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. So it's a respiratory, causes respiratory issues. Maybe I'm approaching this wrong. Let me think about what poison has been used in home stories, maybe. What's the type of medicine used for could be a vasoconstriction medicine, maybe? Or muscle... Okay, it's either that or muscle relaxant. Probably muscle relaxant. Wait, am I overthinking it? Is it just Curie again? It is a paralytic. And it is an alkaloid. It's probably a tuberculin chloride derived thing. Curie, it's probably just Curie again. Right? Not sure if it was commissioned for military use or something. But yeah, it's the stuff that was used in, you know, it's in the poison dart frog stuff. Yeah, it's probably just Curie again. Alright, don't mind me. I just wanted to dive a little into the actual medical science stuff. So it's probably Curie. Anyways. If you take off the pen's lid, now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? Wait, is it a syringe? This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the lid. There's something wrong, Father. Just that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. A very small amount of liquid inside. Oh. This was used to steal the poison, I guess. Probably. The RM initials are very clearly engraved here, and the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message too. To identify her killer, you mean? I don't think there can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yumi University one. It must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. But that would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. So it could be hers. Maybe Giselle Brett isn't her real name or something. Yeah. Well, so... Obviously, she was trying to poison something or other, I think. Well, poison was involved at some point. She was poisoned. The poison may have gotten into the drink. Or she might have nicked herself with it, or something. Maybe she was just mishandling her own poison, I don't know. She already poisoned someone else, you know, right? Curious. So, what's the play here? I want to say the plan of attack here is to go after the method of death, but I don't see a statement here that's clearly it's clear enough for to present against. This is actually a little tricky. It's a first case, sure, but I guess it's because it's 2-1. They're fine with making it a little trickier. Just making sure I didn't miss anything else. Or... Or, are we trying to say... Okay, it's a bit of a jump. But are we... are we trying to say that the... If I present on this statement... Because this seems like a very... This seems like a solid, like, statement of fact that we could contradict by bringing up a good reason as to why she would pull the knife out. And I guess the reason here is... The smallest amount entering the body, either via mouth or via a wound from a poison lace, will prove fatal in minutes. Are we trying? Because this is a few assumptions in a row, you know? That means assumption number 1 is that the blade was poison. Assumption number 2 was that it was very specifically the poison stolen from the lab. And assumption number 3, Ray knew about this and therefore worried that that blade was poison, specifically that poison, and wanted to pull it out so that it doesn't spread into the body. That's a lot of assumptions to be making in a row. But is that what the game wants me to do? It's a little tricky, but it's all I got right now. I guess I'll just make a save. And we'll see if this works.
Objection!
It was that. Wow. There was a lot of jumps in logic though. The game wants you to operate on the premise of there is a reason, you just don't know it yet. Yeah. But you know, it is a couple of jumps in, it is a couple of steps. I figured it out eventually just based on like the logic chain, but that is definitely a lot more steps than usual, I guess. No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ha! The Yoko not only has a poor grasp of lore, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial Yume University. The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But... Prosecutor Aoichi, you won't let the defense speak. But a newspaper article. The court cannot rely on this kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense. I am going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. Your Excellency! Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says... deadly in tiny quantities. The article reviews the following property about the poison in question. Yeah, I know. I really figured out that she was poisoned. It's just that in order to explain that, it's a bunch of steps in a row that you have to assume, you know. Like, we are assuming that a poison is involved, which the basis is constricted pupils. May not be good enough for the court of law, technically, you know. But like, I mean, we know it probably is, but like, A, you have to suspect that poison is involved. B, you have to suspect that it's specifically this poison that was stolen from the university. And C, that it wasn't administered via mouth or any other method. It was specifically a poison, the poison on the dagger. And Ray knew about that, or at least assumed that that was the case, and assumed that like it was the blade that was poisoned and she didn't ingest the poison or something, and thus went to go and pull it out. You see what I mean by like it's a couple of steps, right? I get that we're a little desperate right now and we're just trying to like throw any justification at the wall to see that it sticks, but I would not be confident in arguing this in a court of law without laying some foundation first, you know? I guess like yeah, I guess that's what it is. I wouldn't personally be comfortable unless I laid more foundation. We're jumping the gun here a little bit. But we're making some headway here, so it's all good. When the toxin enters the body and the knife lays with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting? If the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Mimbani-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What?
Objection!
This is complete and utter nonsense. Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. It's turning like something leaves logic and let the next 15 minutes of dialogue work the logic backwards. Well, I mean, usually they're not this many steps up, but yeah, it has happened before. It's just that, I pointed out when it happens. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection!
Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway. In that situation, what the student should have done is waited for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took a potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. Yeah, you see what I mean? That is exactly what I said. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense. Exactly. Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it? Yoko? Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. Oh, she saw the constricted pupils. I guess. I guess that's the idea. She came in and she saw the symptoms of the poisoning. But then she would also but wouldn't she also know that at that point then that like it's too late? If such a small amount already spread in the body to the point where you're seeing the... Yeah, hang on. Starting with impaired breathing, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Oh, hang on. The impaired breathing, right? That's what we're gonna bank on? See, I would ask Ray first if she was suffering from impaired breathing and that's why she suspected that poison. That would have been very helpful information to know before launching into this argument, but you know what? Lawyer by the seat of your pants. You can't possibly. From your expression, counsel, it would appear that those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency, I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side at the Old Bailey. In that case, counsel, you will now present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article? Well, the postmortem report states,
Take that!
Constricted pupils. I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the postmortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Ah! Clearly, being a Yoko with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death. Well, Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes. What are you doing, you Yoko detective? In a newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. What? If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Aoichi, I think you will agree. This is very compelling evidence. You, Yoko students and Yoko professor! I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions. No. Yujin Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court about the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it. But I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Ha! Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper. I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Father. It's a pitiful situation for a university, Professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. Who just said hold it? Oh, Ray. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray. Membani-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew? I've been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewing together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So, I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean? Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman, Miss Giselle Brett. That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on the stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes had shrunk to tiny pinpoints. I don't believe it. In other words, you realize that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison. My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while beneath her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back. And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade. Yes, if the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent this whole time. Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confess in the end. Thank you. Your Excellency! It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here in this courtroom now.
Objection!
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say. Well, Mimbani-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer because of simple truth. Is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Oh. I have evidence. And it is very much conclusive. What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it. You will produce the information evidence at once, Prosecutor Aoichi. Perhaps some praise is due, young Yoko student. What? I had imagined there would be no need for you to submit this evidence. But you brought this on yourself. What the? Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable. Wow, that's the first time we've seen her eyes, I guess. Wahahaha, more evidence. Wait a second. It was taken by the same camera. Whose camera is this? Whose camera is this? This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accursed murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment the Mimbani-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back. No, that's not true. No. I don't believe it. Ah! So, there was a third party at the scene, eh? Someone we haven't seen yet. Order. 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 There's one person in this courtroom that hasn't seen many times with no one in the legislature. That guy isn't just a background joke? Paparazzi guy isn't just a background joke? He's an actual character? Paparazzi guy did it. Huh. And I'm willing to bet there's a little slit. You can, if she was sitting there, right, you can get shanked through the wall. You can definitely get shanked through the wall, Ghost of Tsushima style. So she probably got shanked through the wall. Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for the shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom? Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These yogurts are slow of mind and slow to mature. I'll show you who's slow to mature. Yeah, for now, Susato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is over 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. Incriminating photograph. I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image, I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Right.
Objection!
Good question. That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention. Oh,
Objection!
that's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony. Ah! I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. Pardon? You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday, but there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness. Are we to understand then, Counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court. When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment, because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence! You Yoko studied that blabbering, Professor! What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses. But the defendant has already admitted pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but the moment it was withdrawn. Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings. Indeed, without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene that captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. Oh no! So much for beyond a reasonable doubt, huh? Sato, this is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we just need to prove that somehow. You have plenty of time to rule your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. Yeah, just let us present the newspaper already. And to rule the day you came up against Takatsuchi Aochi in a court of law. If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it. Well, Counsel. Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is, I have the answer. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No, you can't possibly. But as you so boldly claim that you can, please do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name. How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could? However, I am able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity. What? Very well then, Counsel. Present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of the mystery photographer?
Take that!
What is that? Newspaper again. Rocker's England attorneys tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Ah, yes, indeed. They had already caught my eye as it happens. Ah! What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like. There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at this photograph. Good gracious. Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Objection!
Well, that tells us nothing. Ha! Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree. There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Counsel. What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired? The curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs. With the photographic device? Yes. We can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched, and that the scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken of the device. In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera. But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Aoichi, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper. One of the photographs featured in a newspaper article. A newspaper. Ah! That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime. What? What? Mainmo? Ooh. I see what you would call a reckless England returnee. What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's many memo. It's many memo, I tell you. Many memo. Mo. Soseki-san? What was that? Did you say many memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Writing Many Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn to dusk. Ah, now that he mentions it. Could the same reporter be? A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Writing Many Memo. So you're saying that this picture was taken by Many Memo? Yes, my lord, your excellency, Esquire. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. You were adjourned for a short recess in the meantime. Oh, yes, your excellency. As you say, your excellency. And on one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood? Meh. Many memo! Dramatic. To be continued. Ah, yes. Getting to the heart of the matter now, are we? Well, that was a good introduction to the world of the Great Ace Attorney Part 2. I enjoyed myself. I hope you guys did too. And we will be back soon to see what's up with this man who writes many memos. Yeah, have a good one.